When making a documentary, we're essentially inviting the audience into someone's world. And so the quality of your film depends on two things: whose world you're being invited into, and how deeply they let you in. And so the characters you find become the heart of your film. I want to share a mindset for finding characters and opening them up, because if you don't get this part right, you will really struggle to make a compelling film, which I have done. But first, let me frame this in a little story about finding characters for my first documentary, Fly Ethiopia. I was in Ethiopia making a film about airline pilots, and the plan was for Ethiopian Airlines themselves to provide some pilots for me to interview. But they were being really slow about it, and after a week of very little, I realized I couldn't rely on the PR team to find me a character. I had to find someone myself. Now, inside the airline compound was a cafe with a cool, rusted fighter plane out front, and I knew pilots hung out there, and so, with nothing much to do, I hung out there as well. And here's where I did something a little crazy, and it's the secret to organically finding a character. As the pilots were walking by, I said hello and struck up a conversation with them. Within a few minutes of meeting, Tewodros and I were shooting an interview, and he was great, opening up all about why becoming a pilot meant so much to him. I'd gone from doing almost nothing for a week to filming a character within minutes, and all I did was hang out where potential characters go and say hello. And that's kind of the point of this video. It's understanding that the world is full of stories you can tell if you know how to talk to strangers. Some of us, I'm sure, were brought up being told not to talk to strangers, and for good reason. But a lot of documentary filmmaking is about getting invited into someone's world, and so saying hello is a necessary first step. Generally, you don't have to be as charming or as witty as you think. I have literally no idea what I said to Tewodros to start the conversation, and it kinda doesn't matter. You can say almost anything, but here are two guiding principles for starting a conversation. Make an observation about the environment, or make an observation about them. So you could literally say things like, "Hey, I like your uniform," or "What's the story behind this rusty plane?" But often a simple like, "Hey, how are you?" is good enough. Now, in those opening moments, you do have to carry the burden of conversation because you've stopped someone who isn't necessarily ready to talk. But this is where understanding your intentions and why you're talking to this stranger will help you think of what to say. I have a theory. Documentary interviews and first dates are the same. Okay, they aren't exactly the same. You shouldn't be filming your dates and definitely not kissing your interview subjects. But here's the point. In both situations, you want a fun, engaging conversation that gets personal. When you meet someone, date or documentary, the subtext of the conversation is something like, do we like each other enough for something more to happen? And I think understanding that subtext helps guide what I'm saying, because in the beginning, there's almost this playful evaluation where you're both testing if you want to carry on this interaction. And so when you meet a potential documentary character, it's almost a seduction. And if it goes well, you get an interview. And so, like something more romantic, from the very first hello, you want to be building trust and intimacy so that later on, something more can happen. On camera. In your documentary, do not film your dates. But how do you know this person you've just met will be a good character? Well, you should have an idea of what kind of character you're looking for. Again, like dating, it helps to know what you're into. Do you want someone very analytical who can explain a particular concept? Or do you want someone funny who can highlight a certain life experience? For me, in Ethiopia, I was looking for someone thoughtful to help explore why becoming a pilot was so aspirational. And so as soon as I started speaking with Tewodros, I'm evaluating whether he's going to be the right kind of person to film by asking him questions that are relevant to him, to his experience, and to me in my film, and then gauging how he answers. You're investigating what this person knows and what they're like. And so I would try and guide the conversation around topics that are either relevant to your film or to the person's character. If a person is very genuine, making sarcastic jokes will be counterproductive. However, if your person is a bit silly, being very serious won't encourage them to be personal with you. You want to try and notice these things because understanding who this person is will be key to opening them up. And this is important because when someone feels understood, they're going to be more honest with you, and that will make your film better. So maybe this person you've just met will make a good character. How do you seduce them into being in your film? You build understanding. What's a common complaint about dates? Boring small talk, endless questions that don't seem to be going anywhere, or worse, running out of things to say. The same thing will kill your documentary. I think conversations often get stuck in surface level detail, and that's why dates or documentary interviews can feel boring. It's an endless list of information. Where are you from? What do you do? How long have you been doing it? This kind of questioning doesn't actually build understanding because it's just a list of facts with no emotional core. It doesn't get to the heart of who a person is. A conversation isn't a data harvesting experience. It's an opportunity to find connection in another human being. What you care about is who they are as a person. That means, why do they make the choices they do? How do they feel about those choices? And what impact did those choices have? Remember, the subtext of the conversation is something like, where can we connect? Or how can I understand your point of view? And use that to guide what you're saying. Also, try and make statements rather than just asking questions. This is important for two reasons. Firstly, I think it's easy to ask a question because we don't know what to say, and not because we genuinely want to know the answer. Our minds go blank and we just go, so, where are you from? It's not that asking where are you from is a bad question, it's just asking a question as filler because your mind is blank is a terrible frame to ask a question in. And that's how you get stuck in that surface level, data harvesting, going nowhere kind of conversation that everyone hates. But secondly, a statement injects your opinion or personality into the conversation. If instead you say, "You're not from around here, are you?" That's a statement loaded with your own assumptions and perspective, and whoever you say that to can react to it. So don't be afraid to make statements and trust that it's interesting enough the other person will respond, and that from their response, more conversation and more genuine questions will arise. If a conversation is an opportunity to connect, you have to show your personality and your perspective. Don't hide behind questions and force your character to do all of the work. Essentially, you want them to know that you're interested and you care. In this way, hopefully you can build enough trust and understanding that they'll be comfortable not only opening up on camera, but bringing you into their lives. If you can achieve this, your film will have a unique insight that no one else could capture. I think it's a good idea to ask yourself, why do you want to make films? For me, a big part of documentary filmmaking is about meeting people I would otherwise never encounter. I want to find connection and understanding and experience and then share those things. So talking to the people around me is more a way of life than something exclusive to documentary filmmaking. Saying hello opens up the world and brings all sorts of possibilities for connection. And if you do this, you'll be amazed to discover generous people and untold stories for you to film. In Ethiopia, I ended up going bowling with a family. I was invited into their home and then out to a nature park in the north of Addis where young Ethiopians were drinking amongst the jungle. And my favorite thing was exploring the city with the hotel waiter. One day he knocked on my door, said he had the day off, and he took me around Addis, showing me things that only a local could. I will never forget that, and it would never have happened if I hadn't just been chatting to him throughout my stay. This isn't some secret to unlocking everyone. Some people will never open up to you, and that's okay. The point is, unless you say hello, you'll never know.